Hi, my name is Olivia Gagnon, and this is my Kamiak Butte Term Report. Kamiak Butte is located in Whitman County, Washington, just north of Pullman. And today I will be going over the Geologic Foundations, the Climatic Interactions, the biome, referring to the north and south aspects of Kamiak Butte, and the black-billed magpie. Kamiak Butte begins where the Juanda Fuca Plate meets the North American Plate. And as the North American Plate pushes westward, the Juanda Fuca Plate is forced underneath it, bringing seawater and sediment down with it. And as this melts, it creates basaltic magma, which rises to the surface, and 11 million years ago, it spewed out of the earth through feeder dikes. It slowly flooded over 11 million years, burying ancient mountain ranges underneath the basaltic magma, up to 3 miles of basaltic magma. Kamiak Butte and Steptoe Butte, which is just further north of Kamiak Butte, are the unburied peaks of two of these mountains that were not buried. Over time, loess was swept across the lands by winds traveling and settling, creating the fertile soils of the Palouse. Another contributor to the Palouse Hills is the floods of Lake Missoula. Glacial Lake Missoula was held back by an ice dam, which, as global temperatures rose and fell during the end of the last ice age, an ice dam had been formed at the end of this glacial lake. And approximately 100 times, this dam melted, and all the water from Glacial Lake Missoula flooded down through the Palouse Hills, the Okanagan Highlands, through the Columbia River, down into the Willamette Valley, and out to the ocean. It carved out valleys and ripples into the earth, which is part of the Palouse Hills. This water traveled at about 60 miles per hour, carving out everything in its path. The topography of Kamiak Butte contributes much to the vegetation present in its environment. In the south aspect of Kamiak Butte, the sunlight is much more direct, with higher UV radiation, making it so plants don't grow as prevalently on that side due to the lack of moisture being retained. The lack of sunlight on the north aspect allows for thicker vegetation and forests to grow because it can hold the moisture in, as you can see in figure 2.4. The air masses of Kamiak Butte are determined by the source region, and Kamiak Butte is located at the eastern end of the maritime polar air mass, which brings cool, moist air, which is known for feeding the Olympic National Rainforest, the last old-growth forest and only rainforest in America. Most of the moisture brought in by the maritime polar air mass does not make it over the Cascades, in comparison to the west side, due to the rain shadow effect. Kamiak Butte is close enough to the continental polar air masses to receive both fronts. The continental polar air mass brings cold, dry winds down south from the Arctic, and as it meets in Pullman, it creates intense seasons. As you can see in figure 2.1, average temperature for the high is 83 degrees in August, and the low temperature is approximately 25 degrees in January and December, as seen in figure 2.1. Washington State is close to the 45th degree latitude and is part of a temperate megaclimate. The southeastern part of Washington, in particular, is marine-modified continental macroclimate, caused by the two masses converging. And the continentality of Kamiak Butte is rated particularly about 3.5, as seen in figure 2.2. Kamiak Butte receives most precipitation in the months of November through January, with a sharp increase of precipitation in October. Its lowest precipitation being in July at just under 1 inch of rain. The rain shadow of Kamiak Butte, as well as the Cascade Mountain Range, is caused by southward air coming to a low pressure zone. This causes the rising air to cool and condense, and as it condenses, it precipitates and rains on the north aspect of Kamiak Butte. Once it reaches the south aspect of Kamiak Butte, pressure decreases and warms up, which no longer provides the environment right for precipitation. Kamiak Butte receives an average lower summer temperatures and higher winter temperatures of the surrounding areas, as you can see in figure 2.3, which is another cause and effect of its continentality. The forest on the north-facing aspect creates a microclimate beneath the canopy of the forest and holds in moisture during the summer, lowering the average temperature to that of the nearby exposed hills, which don't have any way of keeping moisture in or heat out. And likewise, it traps the heat in as in the winter, making it warmer than surrounding areas, which are exposed to the winds that are pushed across the flat rolling hills of the Palouse, as you can see in figure 2.3. Regards to the north aspect of the biome of Kamiak Butte, being a wooded biome, the spot that our field trip took was precisely at the north 46 degree 52.142 and west 117 degrees 9.078. The data collected by my group on the lower one-third elevation was at 2,960 feet at an aspect of north 20 degrees east and 11 degrees. Our field trip was on September 25th, 2019. The weather predicted was 70 degrees Fahrenheit with 11 mile-per-hour winds. However, on the north aspect of Kamiak Butte, under the canopy, it was 62 degrees, and the wind speed was approximately 5 miles an hour. Far less in temperature and significantly slower in winds than predicted for the surrounding areas. The trees and their tree branches, which hold everything in and keep things out for protection, creates a microclimate which makes the environment stable for that. The north aspect faces away from the sun, and this allows differences in vegetation, as you can see in figure 3.3. Some ocean spray of the understory leaves. You can also see in the background the trees prevalent. There were 3 types of trees on the north aspect of Kamiak Butte, which include ponderosa pine, as you can see in figure 3.2 with its orange coloration for bark, Douglas fir, and western larch. Of these 3, western larch is the only one that is not an evergreen, although it does have the same appearance of needles. It is not an evergreen, it is deciduous. Douglas firs were far more prevalent in the environment and they were more dispersed. Ponderosa pine and western larch were more patchy in their availability, but they were prevalent and visible at all times. Approximately 80% of the overstory canopy was blocking sunlight from the forest floor, which created an environment just right for the soil that it protects. Woods rose can be seen in figure 3.4 on the next slide, and ocean spray is on figure 3.3 in the previous slide, and they were among many species of the understory canopy, along with 9 bark. The soil on the north aspect is an visibly moist dark brown detritus-rich soil where new plants such as wild grasses and 9 bark easily sprout up. Evidence of the habitation of animals such as deer and rabbits through trails left through bushes and squirrels through pine cone shavings were found. Pine cone shavings is when the pine cones are taken up into the trees from the ground by squirrels, and they take the seeds off, eat the seeds, and then drop little pieces onto the forest floor, leaving piles at the base of pine trees. Small brown finches were found flying around, as well as groups and clusters of black beetles on some understory, and chipmunks were spotted running back and forth along the trail. The south aspect of Kamiak Butte has far less vegetation due to the UV exposure. If you go up to the south aspect, at the top of the Kamiak Butte, vegetation thins out at the north aspect along the ridgeline and thins into grassland as the slope decreases back towards the plains. The ground is primarily grasses, and our site that we were doing our survey at was north 46 degrees, west 117 degrees on the upper 1/3 slope at a higher elevation than the first site at 3,212 feet. The aspect of the slope is south 168 degrees east and 10 degrees, where the slope angle allowed for direct sunlight year-round and intense UV radiation. Weather predictions, as being 70 degrees and 11-mile-per-hour winds, was accurate on the south aspect, as there was not an abundance of vegetation for overstory species. Kamiak Butte is made of ancient quartzite, as it is part of the ancient mountain range that was buried under basaltic magma. Quartzite is a porous material which does not allow for farming very easily due to the fact that water just sucks right into it. As you can see in figure 3.6, where a farmer tried clearing out a region of Kamiak Butte to farm, no plants or crops grew there, so they stopped trying to farm it, and it is now just a field, and you can see beyond that the edge line of Kamiak Butte where all the lines are from their plows. The primary species of tree on the south aspect was ponderosa pine, with long needles that retains moisture better than short needles. It was scattered across the south aspect as an overstory species. Understory species were far more prevalent, which included white spiera, wheat grasses, and serviceberries. And in differentiation from the north aspect, the soil in Kamiak Butte was light brown, dry, and dusty, as opposed to the dark brown, moist, loose soil in the north aspect. There was not much detritus apparent, as the sun sucked up moisture, and there was not very many decomposers visible, or presence of them visible either. However, does not mean that there is not much animal life present. Animals on the south aspect were far more visible than some on the north aspect, such as the brown praying mantis, as you can see in figure 3.8, which has adapted, and beneficially to its nature, to blend in with the tall brown grasses on the north aspect, as opposed to the green ones on the north aspect. The south aspect is where the praying mantis lives. Burrowing ground squirrel tunnels. The holes were exposed, and you could see evidence of them living on the south aspect. Cooper's hawks were seen flying around the peak of Kamiak Butte, searching for their prey, and a porcupine nest was found high up in the branches of a ponderosa pine not too far from the peak of Kamiak Butte. For my personal project, I wrote about the black-billed magpie in Kamiak Butte, which is a species that I'm from the west side. I have never seen these birds until coming out to Pullman. They are a member of the crow and jay family. They're highly intelligent, much like crows. They will grab food however they find easiest. As seen in figure 5.1, you can see one flying nearby. And it was noted by Lewis and Clark as they made their trek westward that these birds would walk right into their tents and take food off the tables and fly off with them. They've been seen following hunters and Native Americans as they went hunting for deer, elk, and bison as they hoped for some scraps. They are found all throughout stream corridors, grasslands, fields, and small towns in the entire western United States. They do tend to flock together in large social groupings, much like crows do, and they tend to build very large nests that are 3 feet in diameter and almost dome-like. These birds mate for life. Both parents help with the young. The males help build a nest, and so as well as the females, and they stick around and help bring food to the nests while the mother takes care of the babies. And they're omnivores, so they are seen looking under objects. They will walk around on the ground, picking up rocks and trash. They'll just pick them up and flip them over, knowing to look underneath them for food. Their wingspan is wide, which if you look at them when they fly, they tend to swoop and swing with the wind, letting gravity do the work for them. but they take long strokes when they flap as they fly. Their region of habitation is in the entire western United States, although, as you can see in figure 5.4, they do not cross the Cascade Mountain Range or the Sierra Nevadas. As they prefer to nest in deciduous trees, they do not like evergreen trees. They don't go any farther west than that. They stay where it's much colder and seasonal in climate. Their habitation is becoming a problem, however, due to farmlands and habitations. Their native habitats are being destroyed to create farms, which is why they tend to stay in small towns more than anything nowadays. They are native to the Palouse region. They're not invasive in any way, although despite their large range of habitat. They've been spotted on Kamiak Butte a few times by bird watchers noted. And as they are scavengers, omnivores, they tend to eat, and they will eat dead animals and plant life, which helps spread seeds around Kamiak Butte, and that would help fertilize new plants as they're trying to grow. It would disperse vegetation. And because they have few natural predators, the ones they do have are only noted, as I could find, foxes, dogs, and cats, which there aren't very many of, so they tend to free range around the Palouse very well. As you can see in figure 5.3, their habitat loss due to farming is relatively significant. 68% of their native habitat has been lost, whereas 32% of it is maintained. Although they are not threatened species, they are on a concerned list. And that's it for my presentation of Kamiak. Thank you.